If you were not here on Friday, we did not work any more examples, I don't believe. No, we didn't. We talked about what to do one last time on graphing a quadratic. We worked on our checkpoint, and we worked on our page 7 homework. Let me get my thoughts together. Oh, yes. Okay, so if I've not seen your page 7 homework, even though it's been up on the board since last Wednesday, I would say, Wednesday or Thursday, you're okay for now. I'm typing in the zeros tomorrow. It was 6 problems. You had to do 6 different parts. If you've got your homework or your checkpoint, wait till I get done rambling and bring it to me then. If I'm not seeing your checkpoint, that's also going to be due. You would like it done today, but I'm typing in the 0 tomorrow. I have some free time to type in the 0 tomorrow because we have a quiz. 2 get a point. Okay, so we'll talk about that in just a second. No, let's talk about that now. Okay, so let's look at what we've been talking about lately. We have been talking about graphing quadratic functions, how they're called a parabola, and we've been doing 6 different things when we analyze the graph. Can someone tell me the list of 6 things we've been looking for? Domain range, axis symmetry, max, min, vertex, y-intercept. Okay, so that's 2, 3, and 6 get a point. Okay, so if you've got that list of 6 down, you're good to go. There are 3 things on that list of 6 you should automatically know. What are the 3 things you should automatically know? The y-intercept. Yes, every group can have a point. You've got to know the domain. You know if it's a max or min. You may not know where, but you know if it's a max or min. And, of course, you know the intercept. We're literally today going to add one more thing to this list. Now, the one thing we're going to add is super important. So today is not the day to think we're going to tune it out. But we're literally going to add one more thing to this list. And then we're ready for our quiz tomorrow. After tomorrow, the week is crazy because, we're out of school Friday. And then Thursday, there's a Veterans Day program in the morning and then a pep rally in the afternoon. So it's just a hot mess of a Thursday. So more than likely what's going to happen is the following. We can't get any further behind. We have to take a test on this packet that we've been working on. We have to test on it by next Tuesday. So we need to review on Monday, which means I got to use a lot of words on Wednesday, and I probably can't get them all out on Wednesday. So what's probably going to happen is you're going to have a very short video you need to watch either Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. I promise to keep it as short as possible. If you choose to not watch that video, that's on you because the material from the video will still make the test next Tuesday. So if you're a planner, you got a quiz tomorrow, and then exactly a week later you got a test. Strange. Well, a week to do, so a little more. Crazy. Okay. While we're on the things, let's go ahead and do our math workshops and see if we can get your group some points. Don't forget to get out your number strip and keep up with that, or else if you don't actually remember to, because there was one group in here last week that kind of forgot, I don't give you a 5 if you forget. You could kind of guess what number I give you when you forget. 0. Yeah, because you didn't mark nothing, so it's a 0. Okay, I need help with number 1. Yes, ma'am.
You're going to take out a 12x and y.
And you're left with?
3x minus 4y.
2 gets point. Number 2. Yes, 4.
Do you do grouping?
Yes, I do grouping. And what do you take out?
2x.
And you're left with?
4a minus 3.
And what do you take out next?
Negative 3.
And you're left with?
4a minus 3.
So your final answer is?
2x minus 3, 4 minus 3.
Perfect. And 4 gets, I made him talk a lot through that. We're going to give him 2 points. I made him explain every step of that. Okay, number 3 is an easy factor because the leading coefficient is 1. 2 gets the point. Caitlin already 3. Caitlin already asked me if she could do that one. Go ahead, Caitlin.
Is it x plus 4 or x plus
4? It is 4 and 2 because 4 times 2 is 8 and 4 plus 2 is 6. Perfect. Beautiful.
Point. Yeah.
Number 4 is my favorite of the day. Yes, dear. We'll let him do it. Yes, dear.
Should be minus 25. Should be plus 25.
Okay, you can have a point for that. And Jessica, why is it my favorite?
Perfect square.
Yes, I love it, but you can have a point for that. So I love the perfect square ones. And then Brady remembered the fact that 25 squared was 625, so that was really good. You've got number 5? Tell me what you got.
I got 7a plus 4a plus.
You can have 2 points. Okay, let's talk about number 5. It's a pain in the tail because the leading coefficient is 7, not 1. Alright, so we're going to, later this week, this is actually the part we're going to talk about later this week, about how to factor differently. Because, strangely enough, factoring is tied to quadratics. Since that's not a 1, we have to think about splitting it up. You know, if it was a 9, we might have a debate with ourselves. So should I do 1 and 9? Should I do 3a and 3a? But since it's 7, we don't really have any options. It had to be 7 times 1, so 7a and a. There were no options here. That was pretty set in stone. The guessing part comes in with the 4 and the 7. When I say guess and check, I really think about things that multiply for that last term. So things that multiply to 28. So I could do 1 and 28. I could have tried 2 and 14. Or I could have tried 4 and 7. You guessed something. She guessed it was a 4 there and a 7 there. She could change that guess and have a 7 and a 4. She could change it to 2 and 14. Literally, the 4 and the 7 are her guess. She foils it out to check. If she gets it right, she's done. If she gets it wrong when she foils it out, she's picked a bad guess. Guess again. Okay, so when we foil it out, 7a squared. So that was first. Outer, 49a. Inner, 4a. And last, 28. What's 49 plus 4? 53. Which, wasn't that what our problem was? So 7a squared plus 53a plus 28. So that means when we factored it out, when we foiled it out, we did get the answer. So those were the correct factors. So it is 7a plus 4a plus 7. Are there any questions about number 5? Okay, we've been postponing our life long enough for this. It cannot wait any longer. I kept suggesting it was going to be last week, and then I said this week, and now I'm telling you it's Wednesday. Wednesday. If you've forgotten where it is in your life, it's on the back of your very last packet. You have to know perfect cubes 1 through 10. We're going to go over them now. If you've not been studying, they are on the screen now. You can cheat to not hurt my feelings. That's fine. It's Wednesday. I'm going to give you a minute and 20 seconds on Wednesday. Why a minute and 20? Because I want to give you a little time to write your name. I hated to put that in the minute. Okay, so let's go over these really fast. What's 1 cubed? 2 cubed? 3 cubed? 4 cubed? 5 cubed? 6 cubed? 7 cubed? 8 cubed? 9 cubed? 10 cubed? And why was that a terrible job of me? Do what? That's true. I did show the answers, and I'm going to continue to do that. But I did it sequentially in order. Is it going to be in order on the test? No. So let's do it random now. You ready? 9 cubed. 2 cubed. 8 cubed. 5 cubed. 1 cubed. 10 cubed. 6 cubed. 4 cubed. 7 cubed. Okay, so that's more like what it's going to be like. Again, I'm giving you a minute and 20. It is on Wednesday. Are there any questions about the perfect cubes test? It is 10 points in the 60% category. So while it's not worth much, it does go in an important category. That is for sure. Okay, let's go back to your notes. So we've talked about, we've got y-intercept, we've got axis of symmetry, min, max, domain, range, vertex. We got all those things down. The one new thing for today is, I don't know why I put pages 9 through 11. It's page 4. Page 4. Okay, so we're going to skip the little fill-ins at the top. Our first thing we're going to start with is this cute little graphic thing. I'm going to start there. Okay, so y-intercepts are great, but they're really not that important. What's way more important about a quadratic than really any other piece or part of a quadratic we talked about is its x-intercepts, so where it's crossing the x-axis. So today we're going to talk about x-intercepts. Now, x-intercepts are so stinking important that they have other names, other vocab terms to reference them. So if you're talking about where your graph is crossing the x-axis, it can be called an intercept. It can also be called a root or a zero. Now, there is a tiny difference between a root and a zero, and we'll get into that later this week. That is not today's problem. Today, it's just can you find it, where is it? So again, there are 3 different vocab terms you've got to be ready to deal with. And as you can see by our learning target, they might just say, can you solve quadratic equations by graphing? And that's what we're doing today. We're solving them by finding where it's crossing the x-axis. Okay, so our first picture here has 2 roots, or 2 zeros, or 2 x-intercepts. Oh, no, I can't read today. That one has 1. I can see that 1. This one has 2. Good Lord, Miss Compton. 1, 2, 1. I got this. 1 root, 2 roots. And then our last option doesn't have any roots at all. But I'm just going to put no roots. Or if you'd rather put no zeros or no x-intercepts, you can do that. Why would I want to put no rather than 0?
Because you might get it confused and think that
If you put 0, I'm a math teacher. I think 0 means you're saying your graph crosses. So here's my graph. It actually crosses at 0. So here's why you don't want to put 0 unless your graph actually did cross at 0. So there'd be some potential issues with that. 2 and 3 at a point. Okay, so that seems pretty easy. We just have to figure out how many times it crosses and then exactly where did it cross. Okay, so our first 3 are really nice because they already graphed it for us. What's the answer on number 1? 3 gets the point. It doesn't cross at all because look, here are your axes. If you need to color them in, you can. It doesn't cross at all, so there are no roots. What about number 2? Where are those 2? Okay, I'm going to give every group a point. And then our last one has 1 root, and where is that 1 root? 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. No, it's 4. So 1 root at -4. And then we get to number 1 of the next little section. Again, still the same directions. We're still solving by graphing. But we have kind of an issue. What's our issue with number 1? What's wrong with it? It's not what? It's not in standard form. So you get another point. So we've got to put it in the ax squared plus bx plus c. So we've got to move the 12 over. So if we add 12 to both sides, we'll have x squared minus 8x plus 12 equals 0. We now have our equation in standard form. Now, if you're a blonde like me sometimes, because it happens to the best of us, when you try to graph it, make sure you only type in x squared minus 8x plus 12. You don't put the equals 0 in the graph. What we're doing is instead of factoring, we're figuring out the 2 solutions by graphing. So if we graph it and figure out the 2 x-intercepts, or if there are 2, we figured out the 2 answers that would solve this equation. We're just not actually solving the equation today. Okay, so let's graph it and you tell me what you think the answer is. It has 2, and where are those 2? 2 and what? Okay, table 6. You got that, yeah, so you can have your point. Okay, but So I graphed the 2. I see what you see. I think 2 and 6. I think. I don't like thinking. I like knowing. So I could look at my table. If we're crossing the x-axis, what does that make the y coordinate? It makes it 0 because we didn't go up or down any. So I'm looking on my table. Where do I see zeros in that second column? I do see a 0 at 2, 0. So, yep, there is an intercept at 2. I also see an intercept at 6 because there's a 0 in that column as well. So that's one way to confirm what you thought, is to look at the table. Why is the table sometimes a bummer? Only gives you whole numbers. 2, get another point. It only gives you whole numbers. What are we going to do if we got a decimal one and you know it's coming up? So if you have a decimal one and it's not crossing at 2, it's crossing at 1.5, what button do you think we get to press? We do. We're gonna press second calculate again. And look, we've been doing min-max. Today we're going to pick 0. Okay, we'll come back to that in a second. Let's rearrange number 2. Number 2 is all kinds of not in standard form. I'm going to do it one step at a time for those who need it. If I add 2x to both sides, I'll have 12 equals x squared plus 2x plus 16. But I'm not done because of that 12. So I've got to subtract 12 from both sides. And I have 0 equals x squared plus 2x plus 4. When I put it in my calculator, I need to only put the x squared plus 2x plus 4. Are there any questions about how we rearranged number 2? If Drea rearranges incorrectly, she's going to have the wrong thing typed in on her calculator, which means she's going to have the wrong root. So really the whole thing is, can you rearrange? Because if you can't rearrange, the whole thing's SOL today. Okay, so we got to graph this. X squared plus 2x plus 4. We press graph. Table 1 gets the point. When we graph number 2, it never actually crosses the x-axis, so there are no roots. Didn't cross. Are there any questions about number 1 or number 2? Man, I love number 3. Why do we love number 3? Yeah, so you know something tricky's got to happen. X squared plus 8x plus 16. Someone tell me the roots. And 3 and 6 to the point. So those of us who aren't geniuses today, because I did not realize that first thing this morning, it does look like it crosses at -4. But then, how do we know that is the only root? Like, couldn't it have crossed twice? But then, why didn't we see it go a little below the axis? Like, wow. You know what I mean? Like, we should have seen it down here in that third quadrant then if it actually had 2. So I guess that should have been my sign that it only had 1. But I was still hoping. So I went to my table, and I was looking, and you're right, at -4 it is -4, 0. So I guess I should have realized it had 1 root at -4 then, but I was still in denial. Yes, dear?
It looks like it, when you go down the graph, the table.
Second table. This way?
Perfect square.
It is. Because the leading coefficient is 1. That's why. But yes, it is. It's perfect. It is. You can have an extra point for that. That was no one else has noticed it all day. Okay, so we graphed it. And again, I get that it looks like -4, but I want to confirm that. And that second calculate button is going to help me. So second calculate, instead of picking max or min, since we're looking for roots or zeros, I'm going to press 0. But it's still the same stuff after that. I still pick a spot to the left. Where's my monster? Come on, monster. I still pick a spot to the left of my point. I still pick a spot to the right of my point. I still make a guess, and it can be a terrible guess. It does not matter. And my calculator says negative 4.002, which really is negative 4. So number 3 is negative 4. Table 6 was correct. Are there any questions on number 3? Okay, number 4 is our last one. We got to rearrange. Can someone, to get their group of points, tell me what the answer should be in standard form? Yes, dear.
Negative 3x plus 2x plus 4 equals 0.
Okay, so Brady not only added 11 to both sides, and so negative 7 plus 11 is 4. He also thought to put the 2x in the middle to actually put it in standard form. Now, and Brady gets a point for that. Now, if Brady had left it negative 3x squared plus 4 plus 2x, his calculator would graph it. Your calculator can handle it as long as everything is on one side. But that wouldn't be standard form, and I would be sad. So, he didn't do that. Okay, so you graph it, and what do you get as your answers? There are 2 roots, but where? It looks it, but it's not. It's actually a decimal. Exact same way, and we're going to talk about how to be more specific, but just basically think through your bounds. You're going to have to do it twice, and you need to think through your bounds. Okay, so let's look at it. You know, if I was guessing, I see 1.5. I see that. I think 1.5 for the right one, because it's between the 1 and the 2 marks, so I would have guessed 1.5. And then I see what Lyric's saying, because it almost looks like it's passing over that dash, but it's like a little before it. So it's not technically negative 1. So if you were going to guess on your paper negative 1 and 1.5, you're technically not 100% right, and you're not going to get all your points. Can someone tell me that I'll give Abby Grace the 1.5, because I think the answer is 1.53. But can someone tell me a better approximation for that first round? It was, and you rounded to 0.9. 2 gets the point. Okay, so to actually do this, and that's what Jessica was asking, which was genius, but she's got enough points, so I'm not going to give her another. So to figure these out, since we think they're decimals, we are going to do second calculate. But we've got to think through when we're setting our bounds this time. So in the past, like when we were doing if it's a max or a min, it only had the 1 max or the 1 min. So the bounds didn't really matter because there's only one of them. But now that there are 2 different roots, we've got to think it through. We've got to make sure when we set our bounds, we're only including that 1 root. Because if we set our bounds too wide, our calculator's going to be confused. You're going to confuse the bejesus out of it because it has 2 things it's supposed to think about. It can't. It can only do 1 at a time. So you need to set your first bound in between, you know, here and here. And your second bound, if I didn't drop all my things, your second bound has to be between here and here. Like you can't have both of them included in your bounds, or else it's going to freak out on you. Okay, so for my left bound, I go somewhere to the left of that point. For my right bound, I go a little to the right. But I've got to be careful because, again, if I go too far this way, I'm going to confuse it. So I've got to make sure it's before I actually hit that second 0. And then I do a terrible guess, and it says negative 0.86 something something. I'm normally a 2 decimal place person, so I'm going to say negative 0.87. If Lyric put negative 0.87 on her paper, I'd give her a point, of course, for points on tests or whatever. If she had negative 0.9, I'd give her her points. But if she has negative 1, she's not going to get all her points because it really wasn't a negative 9. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I put the same thing, like in the calculator, the white,
Yes.
all that, but I'm not getting the same.
Show me, bring it here. Because I had one being weird earlier and I just had to reset that bad boy because he was acting a fool. Plus 2x plus 1. Okay, so you're right. You typed everything in correctly. So just like when your phone misbehaves, you turn it off. I'm going to reset the calculator. He's completely reset. So let's do now negative 3x squared. Is it plus 2x? Plus 4? There you go. If you think your calculator is something crazy like this one, Ray, let me know and I can help. Oh, we can do that. Okay, the second format, you tell it you want that grid to axes on. You didn't even have axes on. There you go. Okay, so we figured out that first 0, and we're seriously going to do the exact same process for the other 0. So second, calculate 0. I pick a spot a little to the left, but again, I can't go too far to the left because if I'm including this point, if I'm including that point in my boundary, I'm going to have to use the calculator. I've got to go past that point for my left spot, and then past the other point, a little to the right. Give it a guess, and it really is 1.535, so I'm going to say 1.54. Okay, are there any questions on number 4? Okay, well then you've got your checkpoint, you've got your homework from last week, but you also have 4 more problems today. So 5, 6, 7, and then number 8 is on the next page. There you are, number 8. So you have 4 problems on your own, and then all the stuff you should have shown me last week but you hadn't had a chance. The 6 things plus extra stuff, yes. It is on there.